Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Ghoti deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because we just got some amazing support for this deck out of Phantom Nightmare, which is so cool and helps out this deck a lot. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come to our notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing a single copy of Moonlight of the Ghoti. This card is definitely a one-of in the deck. With the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add a fish monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. Which means you can add any fish monster in the entire game that you want from your deck to your hand off this card's ability. It also has a crazy powerful effect that then you banish a fish monster from your hand or face up from the field, and if this card is banished, you can banish a fish monster from your hand, graveyard, or face up from field, except another copy of this card to special summon this card, which is a really cool ability because this card gets you to any fish that you need, which is such a powerful ability. We then play two copies of Keith. Keith is really cool, and fun fact about Keith, this card is actually the light on the tip of the angler, which is really cool because if you look at this card very closely, you can actually see Moonlight in the background art, which is just so cool about this card. I love that about this card, that it's basically just an angler fish. But it has the ability that if a fish monster is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters and one of your banished level 6 or lower fish monsters and banish both that opponent's monster and this card. And if you do, special summon your targeted monster, which is a really cool effect just to get you one of your banished monsters on your side of the field. And during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you can special summon this banished card, which is great to just get this card back on the field to use it basically as a disruption, which is really nice. We then play three copies of Paces. I really like Paces as a 3-of in my build. I could see cutting this card down to 2, and I have considered cutting this card down to 2, but I really like it as a 3-of to be able to use this card as a tuner, because you can banish this card that you control to special summon a fish monster from your hand, except another copy of this card, and during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you can special summon this banished card, and also it lets you synchro summon during your opponent's turn as a quick effect, which is a really awesome ability. We then play a single copy of Shift. Shift is just a good one-of now in the deck because you can banish this card in the grave and then target a fish monster you control, and it gains 500 attack until the end of the turn. And also during the standby phase of the next turn after this card is banished, you get to special summon this banished card, and during your opponent's turn, you can actually use this card as a quick synchro summon, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Ruby of the Ghoti. Ruby is just really good in the deck because it lets you banish this card from your hand to target a fish monster in your grave and banish it. And during your opponent's turn, if this card is banished, you can special summon this card. And if this card is special summoned, you can actually mean this effect resolves. You get to synchro summon a fish synchro monster, which is a really cool ability. I feel like one is really all you need of Shift and Zeep, but it's really good to be able to play in this build at one each. We then play a single copy of Omen. Omen is just a good extender in the build, because if a fish monster is banished, then you can special summon this card from your hand, which is great to be able to just get this card out on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Shade. I really feel like Shade is a great one-of in the deck. This card is so good at disrupting your opponent. It helps you get a monster out on your side of the field, because during the main phase quick effect, you can banish two fish monsters from your hand and or grave to special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is special summoned, you can actually target a face-up card on the field and banish it when it leaves the field. And a lot of cards right now want to go to the graveyard, so this card is great at just dealing with your opponent's cards and making your opponent banish those cards. And if this card is banished, you can banish a fish monster from your grave to add this card back to your hand, so you can do it over and over again, which is so cool. We then play three copies of White Sardine. Sardine is definitely a 3-of, and this card is just crazy in the deck. It lets you send another copy of White Sardine from your deck to the grave to special summon this card in your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extract for the rest of the turn except water, which is totally fine because that's pretty much all we're summoning anyways in this build. But this card is great because it also has the ability that if this card is special summoned from the grave, you can treat this card as a tuner this turn, which is great to just get this card out on your side of the field as a level 2 tuner so that you can go in for some synchro plays. We then play two copies of White Sunfish. White Sunfish is a great 2-of in the build because if this card is in your hand, you can target one level 4 lower fish monster in the grave with the same name as a card that you control, and special summon this card, and if you do, special summon that monster to your side of the field, which is really cool to be able to use because we actually have a Rhoda for our white fish cards. So it's really good to be able to use these cards in the deck, but you only need 2 copies of Sunfish to work with your copies of Sardine, but it is searchable, which is why we just play 2 of this card. We then play 3 copies of Abyss Shark. Abyss Shark is so cool because it has the ability that if this card is used for an XZ summon of a number monster, it can be treated as a level 3 or 4 or even 5. And if all monsters you control are water, then you can special summon this card in your hand, and if you do, add a level 3, 4, or 5 fish monster from your deck to your hand, which is really cool because we actually play a couple of targets for this card in the deck, one of which being Silent Angler, because this card can special summon itself from your hand if monsters you control are water, but it has to be the last card you special summon from your hand because you can't special summon any more monsters from your hand for the rest of the turn. We then play 3 copies of Lifeless Leaf Fish. This card is great as a normal summon, because when this card is summoned, you can send a fish monster from your deck to the graveyard, and you also banish the card from the grave to target 3 fish monsters in your grave and shovel those targets back into the deck, and then draw a card to help you recycle your resources. We then play 3 copies of Batunaful Princess. Batunaful Princess is great as a 3-of, because this card has the ability that when this card is normal or special summon, you can banish this card to special summon a level 4 or lower fish type monster from your deck, except another copy of this card, which gives you access to so many cards in this deck, which is just so cool to be able to get to the exact card that you need on your side of the field. And it's just a really helpful 3-of in the build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the hand traps. So for the hand traps, we're just going to be playing a few, starting off with 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is definitely a 3-of just to stop your opponent from touching the deck. We also play 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. Droll and Lockbird is really good as a 3-of in the build as well, because this card helps out a lot in the deck to be able to just stop your opponent from touching the deck for the rest of the turn. It's just a really powerful card in the build. We also play Infinite Impermanence, but we're going to get into that when we get into the traps. But these cards are just really good to be able to stop your opponent basically from touching the deck or searching the deck for the rest of the turn. So that's it for the hand trap monsters. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with 3 copies of White Reincarnation. White Reincarnation is basically Rhoda for your white cards, which is really cool to be able to do. Is when this card is activated, you get to add a fish monster with the effect that treats itself as a tuner from the deck to your hand, which is such a cool ability about this card, because it basically searches any of your white cards that you want, which is just really good. And it also has the ability once per turn, at the end of the damage step, if you're white or a monster attacked, you can actually activate this effect that the attacking monster can make a second attack in a row in once per turn if a level 8 or higher fish synchro monster is special summoned from your graveyard, even during the damage step. You can destroy all monsters that your opponent controls, which is crazy. This card is a board wipe. It's just a crazy powerful Rhoda for our white cards, and it's just such a powerful card. We then play 3 copies of the Most Distant Deepest Depths. This card is great for our Ghoti cards because it has the ability, while you control a fish synchro monster, this card cannot be destroyed or banished by card effects. And you can only use the following effects this card once per turn, that you can banish a fish monster from your hand or grave, and then a Ghoti monster from your deck to your hand, which is a crazy powerful effect that this card gets you to any of your Ghoti cards that you want. And if a fish monster is normal or special summoned to your side of the field while this card's in your grave, you can target a fish monster you control, banish it, and if you do, add this card back to your hand, which is a really cool ability to get this card back so you can activate it again. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 3, and that's going to be 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence to go along with our Droll and Lockbirds and our Ash Blossoms. But these cards are really good in the deck to basically just stop your opponent, because we have so much room in this deck to be able to play hand traps, which is really nice. But this card is great to negate your opponent's monster effects and also lock down entire columns of spells and traps, and they just help out a lot overall in this build to stop your opponent in their tracks, so we can go in for our copy of our Ghoti of the Deep Beyond to basically board wipe the field. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with Ghoti of the Deep Beyond. This card is an amazing boss monster. I absolutely love this card because it has the ability, just takes a fish tuner plus a non-tuner to make this card. And the original attack of this card becomes 500 times the number of banished monsters. And this card can get absolutely huge, especially when you synchro summon in this card during your opponent's turn, because it also has the ability, if this card is synchro summoned during your opponent's turn, banish all cards on the field. Just everything gone. Board wipe. This card is amazing because during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished from the monster zone, you can just special summon this banished card, giving you a crazy powerful boss monster that you can just swing in for game at that point. We then play a single copy of the Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign. This card is massive and has the ability for each banished card, this card gains 100 attack and defense, and monsters your opponent control lose 100 attack and defense, plus it's water, so it's really easy to make. We then play a single copy of Ice Jade Gramagrini. This card is really good as a 1-up because it banishes cards and it just deals with a bunch of fields, and it's just a really powerful level 10 synchro we can go into because it's also water. We then play a single copy of Dragite because this card is a spell and trap negate, making this card a really good 1-up. Play a single copy of White Aura Whale, which is actually my favorite synchro monster in the entire X deck with all the new white cards that we have. But this card has the ability, when this card is synchro summoned, you destroy all of your opponent's attack position monsters. You can actually make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase, and if this card attacks a defense position monster, it does piercing damage. And if this card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card by battle or by card effect and sent to the grave, you can banish one other water monster from your grave to special summon this card. If you do, it's treated as a tuner, which is really good to be able to combine with our copy of White Reincarnation. We then play 2 copies of Askin. Askin is just really cool in this deck because it banishes cards off the field and also brings itself back. As if this card is synchro summon, you can target a fish monster you control, which is usually itself, and a card your opponent controls, and banish them. And if this card is banished, you can banish a fish monster from your grave to special summon this card, which is great to bring it back to your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Serpent of the Ghoti. This card is the most important card in the entire extra because it just gives you so much advantage, and it's so important to go in this card because if this card is synchro summon, you banish a level 6 or lower fish monster from your deck, and if this card is sent to the grave as a synchro material, you can target a fish monster in the grave and banish that target, then add a fish monster with an equal or lower level from your deck to your hand, which is a crazy powerful effect for combos in this deck. We then play a single copy of White Aura Porpoise. Porpoise is good as a 1-up because it has the ability, if this card is synchro summon, you can special summon a level 4 or lower fish monster from your hand or grave and defense position to help you basically synchro climb. Then you can special summon 1 monster with the same name from your graveyard, which is a crazy powerful effect, especially to be able to use your copies of White Sardine. And if this card is in your possession, is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the grave, you can banish 1 other water monster from your grave to special summon this card and you treat it as a tuner, which helps you go in for more synchro plays. We play a single copy of Fish Lamp. I'm currently testing this card out. I really kind of like it as a 1-up. The only downside is it is fire, which is a little bit of a downside. But if this card is sent to the grave as a synchro material, you can special summon out 2 lamp tokens to your side of the field that are level 2. Also, you cannot special summon monster in the extract for the rest of the turn except fish. And if you control a fish synchro monster, you can banish this card from the grave, target a card on the field, and destroy it, which is basically the effect I look for on this card, that we can pop a card. Also, it's a tuner, which is kind of nice, but again, it is fires, which is a little bit of a downside because we do water lock ourselves. We then play a single copy of Stealth Kraken. Stealth Kraken is great to be able to pop cards on the field and turn everything into water. And also, it's basically like a miniature Dragoon, which is kind of cool because it can pop a monster on the field that's water, and it makes everything on the field water, and then it does half damage of that monster's attack on the field to your opponent's life points, which is great. We can play a single copy of Coral Anemone because this card is Walking Monster Reborn, which is just really great to be able to bring back a monster to your side of the field. I love that about this card. And then finally, we play a single copy of Abyss Keeper. Abyss Keeper is just a good combo piece in the deck because it has the ability, if this card is Link Summon, you can actually special summon a fish monster from your hand to zone this card points. So you can target 1 other fish monster that you control, and the card your opponent controls, and banish those cards, which is great to just instantly deal with the card on your opponent's side of the field. So that's it for the deck. I hope you enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have not played Ghoti before, you should definitely give the deck a try now because it's super fun to be able to just make a copy of Ghoti of the Deep Beyond during your opponent's turn, board wipe them, and there's so many cool combos for this deck to be able to just summon out cards to your side of the field, and plus they have amazing artwork. Like, tell me that card does not look amazing and beautiful. So, that's going to do it with this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.